go with them. That means you just touch those asanas and you release yourself. Because as far as beginners are concerned, they cannot stay in these poses. One should not stay for a long time because you are likely to do something wrong in the pose if you just stay in taking a wrong position and your muscles are not toned for that. One can prolong the stay only when the asanas come better. So these are the poses. For example, watch, do Vrikshasana. Vrikshasana. Just show Vrikshasana first. Leg up. Hey, do Vrikshasana. Hands up. See these poses. Then Utkatasana, where you can't stay too long. Then do Parighasana. Just one of the poses where you can't stay too long. Gomukhasana, where you saw Abhay doing it. Then Dhanurasana, just now you saw one of you Sharvasana and Dhanurasana. These are the poses in which you can't stay too long. These are the poses where you have to just touch those poses and release yourself so that you don't stay. You understand? Among all these poses which you did, which you saw right now. And next, now you saw all these things. Now next we come to the well-known Surya Namaskar, which gives mobility, alertness, speed, quickness, sharpness and freedom by developing the willpower and physical strength. You know the usual Surya Namaskar, but here these are yogic Surya Namaskars. The asanas which you saw in all this performance, they are linked in such a manner that it forms the Surya Namaskar, and in olden days this was the method to do the Surya Namaskar. So now you see view from the others will be from the side and whichever is facing you and doing, so you get both the views, side view and front view. Samasthiti, Namaskarasana, Urdhvastasana, Uttanasana, Adhomukha Svanasana, Urdhvamukha Svanasana, Chaturanga Dandasana, Urdhvamukha Svanasana, Adhomukha Svanasana, Uttanasana, Urdhvastasana, Namaskarasana, Samasthiti. You understood? That is all what you saw. It is linked in such a manner which one can then later do fast or add certain forward bend standing poses along with it. And in usual Surya Namaskar, where the knees touch the floor, here the body is not allowed to touch in any position. Just do Adhomukha Svanasana, Uttanasana, Adhomukha Svanasana. See, the knees do not touch. Urdhvamukha Svanasana, the knees won't touch. Chaturanga Dandasana, knees won't touch. Urdhvamukha Svanasana up, Adhomukha Svanasana back, and Uttanasana. Understand? That means you are not resting anywhere, and because in usual Surya Namaskar your knees are rested, whereas here the chest is fully open, the spine is activized, and at the same time the body is not rested anywhere, and that gives the speed. And that's how the Surya Namaskars are done. Next, we come to the last part, which is supine and resting pose. In that, Guruji has chosen two poses called Supta Virasana and Shavasana. So one will be doing Supta Virasana and the other one will be doing Shavasana. Both are supine, that means that you saw the prone position where the abdomen was down, spine was up, and here now spine is down there and the torso is up, facing the ceiling. This is Supta Virasana, where you learnt in the beginning to sit in Virasana, you learnt arm movement in Virasana, where you stretch your arms in Parvatasana, and then you go to supine posture when the knees are adjusted. And in the beginning the arms are taken downwards, then the arms are folded upward to open the thoracic. You know, in this Supta Virasana, the abdomen and pelvic region are extended. Can you see? When she extends the arms over, the pelvic and abdomen gets extended and the thoracic chest is expanded. The folded legs here in Virasana remove the pain and fatigue. Because if you have got pain in the legs, calf muscles, thigh muscles, etc., or knees, even Shavasana becomes difficult. Because you can't position your knees, your thighs and your calves or ankles in a a proper position, when they are stiff or when they are having sprain, etc., you can't drop your legs like what Abhay is doing. It seems that yes, all can lie down and do the pose. But the problem is that when you have a problem, you can't even lie down like that. When you have a restlessness in you, then you can't rest in that manner. Whereas in Supta Virasana, when you lift your thoracic chest, it makes you to breathe freely. When you extend your abdomen, then the organic compression that is felt in the abdominal region, that is taken off, bloating sensation, gas, etc. And then one can do Shavasana in a proper way. And that's why these two supine positions, in that sense, they are connected. Not only the supine position. Then, even then, the folded arms, one can extend and stretch as Devaki has done, which elongates the spinal muscles further. And you find, though in Devaki's case, it's a supine position, the spine is not rested completely downwards. You understand? It's not, the back muscles or the spinal muscles are not allowed to sag or sink. In their extension, you find there is a lift of the back muscles, and that helps in Shavasana to maintain the lift at the back muscles so that one does not keep on dropping it. This particular adjustment of the back, chest and abdomen enables one to go to Shavasana in a proper way and can relax the body, the mind, without allowing the mind to go to a dreamy, shaky and disturbed state. To avoid that dreamy, shaky and disturbed state, this is how one has to do. Now, when one learns to rest in these poses, like rest or relax and becomes quiet oneself consciously, then the breath is revealed. That means, close your eyes now. Then you can also close your eyes. When they begin to relax, the resting position relaxes the whole body. It makes them quiet, and when it makes them quiet, you find the breath. You feel your breathing. You understand? You begin to feel how the breath movement is occurring inside. That's how the breath is revealed. The movement of the breath is felt, and that leads one towards the first and the basic preparatory pranayama, in which the inhalation remains normal, soft and slow, whereas exhalation becomes deeper than normal, as well as soft, smooth, and leading the organs of perception like eyes, ears, tongue, skin, nose, etc. to become quiet, the mind to reach within towards its source, and that's how one begins to have the inner journey. This type of cycle, like normal inhalation and longer soft exhalations, that is called as Ujjayivan. There's a pranayama which is called as Ujjayivan pranayama, which is a basic pranayama. That's how a beginner or a neophyte is introduced to the pranayama with this foundation, the fourth limb of Astanga. That's how you proceed from asana to pranayama. And here ends actually the program which is mentioned according to the syllabus. So you can come up. So that's how in Shavasana one pranayama is taught after all these preparations. So friends, you saw the demonstration of asanas introduced in the syllabus, including pranayama. You may ask, now this is a question asked by every beginner. You may ask, looking all these things, because this already has taken, as we began, it's 6:45 and it's 8:30. You may ask, how long one should practice this daily? Because there is always a big question mark in front of everyone, that how long one should do. You may think that as 6:45 to 8:30 means, do you have to stretch yourself like 2 hours as they did here? Guruji has answered this question often. Many a time he has answered this question. A qualitative practice is better than a quantitative one. For a beginner, the quality of pose is more important. Quality means bringing that pose to, doing the pose in such a state that you correct each part of the body. Your position, your movement, everything remains correct. So that quality is important than duration. More than just, instead of asking the question, how long one has to stay, one has to see how correctly it can be performed. As asana may not take more than, each asana what you saw, it doesn't take more than 20 to 30 seconds. Except Shishasana and Sarvangasana, in which you stay as a beginner for 3 to 5 minutes. That's the limitation for a beginner. It's better to repeat the other asanas twice or thrice in order to improve them. Except these two, Shirshasana and Sarvangasana, where you can't keep on repeatedly doing, since you may be jamming your spinal muscle somewhere, or the wrong pressure may come on your head, neck, etc. Therefore, the program that you saw will not really take more than 45 minutes to 50 minutes. That's why beginner's class is just for an hour, and when you learn the poses on your own, at least in the classes, they have to explain you. They have to make you understand what you are doing, how you are doing, why you are doing, etc. But when you are doing on your own, once if you know how, what and why, etc., then the question of, because there you don't need a running commentary. If you are doing some Trikonasana, you don't need running commentary over there saying that, oh, keep your knees straight, keep your arms straight, keep your legs straight, etc. It is you who have to do. You who have to watch your knee, you who have to watch your arms, you who have to watch your chest. And that's how the correction, when it comes from within, then the words that take long time to explain. Doing doesn't take long time. Doing means you have to watch and you have to do. And that's why it definitely does not take more than 45 minutes to 50 minutes, what you saw in this whole program. For a beginner, the precision is not so important because his intelligence is limited to mobility, flexibility and the balance of the body. Therefore, the technical points need not be so precise and deep because he has to just see whether the arms move, the legs move, the ribs move, the chest moves, sort of those actions which have to come. A beginner begins to learn from the starting point till he gets into the pose. For him, only that is the journey of practice. Start and go to the final pose. He aims at the pose, and such category of the pupils are called as beginners. You understand? That you want to learn that pose and you go to the pose, and when you are aiming at it, that is Arambhavastha. That means you are in that state where you are called as beginner. When you begin to think over that pose which you have done, when you go to penetrate yourself deep, your consciousness deep into that pose to find out what you are doing, then no more you are a beginner. Because then you have started already looking within yourself. But till that, you are a beginner, since you have to just see that you start the pose in such a manner that you go to the pose. And that's why it is called as beginner's program, and it's the Arambhavastha of the people, and that is the journey for them. The real journey is ahead. Until one goes to asana, all these energies of the body and the mind flow in that direction. In that direction alone to go into the pose, to get into the pose. But when one learns the pose, the centralized and the aimed energy that begins to get diffused. And this diffused energy, if not channelized properly, one begins to feel the unevenness. What often you hear that you do the asana and then there's some of them they say that it's okay in the beginning you feel nice, but after a few years you start getting pain. Especially if you give up yoga, then it pains more. It's more harmful. That's how you all listen. No, give a thought to all these things. Because when you have started doing, you have already started using your energy somewhere. And that energy, if not channelized, the energy which is now spread all over the body, in your mind, if that is not channelized properly, that's a waste. And there you find, you actually come across that stage when you say that, oh, then why do I feel the pain here and why I don't feel pain there? You say, oh, my one leg pains, the other leg doesn't pain. Or you say that I stretch in my right hand stretches better, my left hand is not stretching. That means you have begun to understand that something is doing better. A part of the body is doing better. The other part of the body is not doing that way. This understanding which is coming is not a failure. What you think, yes, something is wrong. But that's not a failure. It's actually the energy. The energy which is within has now diffused and it is moving in certain channel. And now it becomes our duty to see that how that will be brought to the even state. That's why I said this can be easily answered. Suppose if this happens, if you say one's hand is stretched well and the other hand is not getting good stretch, then one can easily answer saying that something is wrong in the practice. I mean, just saying that it is wrong, it doesn't take a long time. But to be precise, it's not that the feeling of pain or imbalances have come due to the wrong practice. On the contrary, you find that you find that you have started feeling the flow of the energy. So one side the flow of energy is very good, that's why you feel nice. The other side the flow of energy is not good, and that's why you know that something is going wrong there. So you put your energy to learn the pose. In the beginning stage, when you are doing the pose, you are all putting your energy to do the pose. You invest your energy, and as a return, the energy which is produced again has to be utilized in that asana so that the asana gives a better effect. That means from Arambhavastha, you begin to go Bhatavastha, where you begin to distribute that energy to find out how still better you can perform, how correctly you can perform, what sort of feelings you are getting. Are you feeling the evenness this way and that way? When you are doing Jarushasana on the right side, did it come in the same manner on the left side? Did it become worse or it became better? That means whether you are better on the left side or better on the right side. So these kind of things, when you begin to think, that means you have started channelizing your energy. And when you, this energy which is produced, if it is utilized properly in that asana, it gives that effect. And there begins the real learning. And the precision comes when you begin to utilize that energy correctly, evenly, in a balanced way. Then the next common question is, how should the breathing be in the pose? That's a very tricky question. Because moment you are put in the pose, you say, how am I to breathe? The theoretical advice will be to breathe normally. It's a simple answer. I can just say, be in the pose and do normal breathing. But mainly, you have to see that you do not hold the breath. In any pose, you do not hold the breath. That's the main thing you have to see. And secondly, instead of this, listen carefully, because this all confuse you. Any teacher you go, they will be confusing you. Except here, in this, when we are teaching. Because we don't speak about that breath. That's why people question the other way, that why are we not speaking about breathing? But the thing is that, instead of concentrating on the breath, you concentrate on the technical part of the pose. Focusing on the breath is possible only after getting the maturity in the asana. Often the other schools of yoga ask you to concentrate on the breath. And more than concentrating on the breath, they fiddle with the breath. They are not actually asking you how to breathe in that pose, but they are playing with that breath. And more than concentrating on the breath, in fact, those who have not understood the, what you call, technical part of it, doing properly the asana, they will speak about the breath. When you don't know anything, you talk about something. So if that is the thing, that's what exactly happens, that you don't know how to go into that pose or do the pose properly, that's why you begin to speak about the breath, whereas that is wrong. When you pour water on a half-baked vessel, what happens? It just breaks. Similarly, if you load the unbaked body with breath, that means the body which is not yet prepared to take that proper method of breathing, that means you are damaging your nerves, you are damaging your body. And therefore, one should concentrate on correct performance of the asana than the breathing in that asana. That's why in pranayama also, when from Arambhavastha it is spoken about Ghatavastha, Ghata means body. And this body, unless you train in proper way, it can't take the energy. That means your body is unbaked or half-baked, and that energy which with the breathing you will be producing, that energy this body will not be able to take. And when it's not able to take, your breathing goes wrong, your movement goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And that's why first you have to pay attention to the correct structural positioning of the body, correct performance of the asana, and then only the breathing comes into the picture. And that's how in this syllabus, because you may ask then 48 asanas with 60 variations what you saw in Dandasana sitting, holding the foot with concave back and bending forward, all this sort of thing. You may ask that so many asanas and why only one pranayama? Because asana is the foundation for the pranayama, and unless one is ready with this foundation, one can't proceed for the pranayama. And when you do so many asanas, then Ujjayi Pranayama 1, which you saw in Shavasana, where you simply lie down in order to relax and you do normal inhalation and smooth, soft, wide exhalation. So you remove those hurdles which are created inside in your abdominal region, thoracic region, what we call as tension, hardness, stiffness, not feeling any freedom, etc. These hurdles are removed and then you can proceed with the pranayama. And that's why for 48 asanas there is only one pranayama, the last which is called, there is a first which is called as Ujjayi Pranayama 1. First type with normal inhalation and deep exhalation. And that is how the syllabus for the beginners is made. And here we conclude the yoga in action for beginners. And I now hope that you know how much you have to learn as a beginner in the yogic path. And those who are already advanced students will be knowing that why in the classes, in spite of years of practice, you are made to do certain things often, commonly to everyone, so that you at least maintain your health and you go, even if you have to advance in this art, advance in this science, you have to go in those steps, taking those steps alone. And that's why though the program was meant for the beginners, and perhaps they might have understood why this program is given this way, and the advanced students have understood that where the base is there for their whole program, and medical students, those who come for the medical classes as patients, they perhaps might have realized that though they are made to do these poses with the support, with the props, etc., why they are doing it. And this will clear, I hope, up to some extent at least your doubts in the mind. And I hope you have. I had promised you that I will show this in August, but I could not do in August. In month of June, first meeting I said, we will be having this program in month of August. We could not do that. I had to postpone it to month of September, and I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have enjoyed it, we will have programs like this often. As you show the interest, we will be proceeding. If you don't show the interest, of course we also remain just quiet ourselves, because we know these things, what's happening when we are practicing in ourselves. Thank you very much. You have to close the windows, and whatever you have kept scattered here, like pillows, blankets, etc., is keep them back.